Writing lines of code is racist now, at least according to Unreal Engine, and I wish I was making that up. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and yeah, we're gonna get into this because it was brought to my attention by my boy Levistro that there's a new update to the coding standards for Unreal Engine that are, let's be real, there's no better way to define it. They are full-blown woke. I mean, I know that word's lost a lot of meaning. I know it's a word that I tend to try and shy away from because it's just a catch-all buzzword at this point, but I'm going to show you these new coding standards, and yeah, you try and come up with a better word. So, I mean, first of all, I get it. Unreal Engine, they are one of the, if not the most popular engine for game developers, both indie and in the mainstream AAA gaming landscape. They're one of the most, if not the most common engine to use. It is what you can do in Unreal Engine, how ubiquitous Unreal Engine is with gaming, is unparalleled. And so for them to come out with this new coding standard, which applies effectively to the entire world, which is making, making their games, or using Unreal Engine to make their games, with this very Western, specifically American-centric viewpoint of how certain words shouldn't be used, how certain words have inflammatory meanings when they really don't. It's actually insane. Now, I get it. They have a coding standard. Pretty much all businesses have standards, a coding standard across the board. That makes sense. You do want to have some basic uniform standards for any and all your work, all your projects. That way, it's very understood how these projects work, from developer to developer, from user to user. Just, it's nice to have a standard of work. All businesses use that, not just, coding, not just AI, not just whatever line of work you're in. If you go to McDonald's, there's a standard for how the procedures operate. So when you read this at first, it's not that alarming. Write maintainable code by adhering to established standards and best practices. At Epic Games, we have a few simple coding standards and conventions. This document reflects the state of Epic Games' current coding standards. Following the coding standards is mandatory. This is mandatory. What I'm about to go over with you, what I'm about to read with you guys, is mandatory. What does that mean? So first, before we even get into the, again, ideologically possessed woke changes that are unreal, I mean, pun completely intended, just note that these changes are mandatory. So if you do not adhere to them, what does that mean? Does your game get taken down? You probably get your access revoked to the Unreal Engine. I'm wondering what the consequences of not following these inane new guidelines are. I shouldn't even call them guidelines because they're not just guidelines. Code conventions are important to programmers for several reasons. 80% of the lifetime cost of a piece of software goes to maintenance. Hardly any software is maintained for its whole life by the original author. Code conventions improve the readability of software, allowing engineers to understand the new code quickly and thoroughly. If we decide to expose source code to mod community developers and we want it to be easily understood, many of these conventions are required for cross-compiler compatibility. The coding standard allows or C++ centric. However, the standard is expected to be followed no matter which language is used. Now, for those of you who have no idea about coding, 'cause I'm only semi-familiar with coding myself. I can only do some real basic coding, working in IT and whatnot. So you don't need to understand coding to understand how insane this is. Just throwing that out there. If you do have an understanding, this is going to help you honestly even further. But just note that the underlying back-end stuff of how all your video games are even getting made, this is that. When they talk about the lines of code, it's this. So you got class organization, totally normal. Like that is quite literally a normal thing. Copyright notice, naming conventions. I mean, all this stuff, normal. You scroll through here, oh no, there's nothing out of the ordinary. When someone told me that the Epic Games, the Unreal Engine had gone woke, I was like, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. This is all completely normal stuff that you would see in, honestly, any standard practices for any sort of IT-based position. And then we can do this. Inclusive word choice. All right, I'll bite. What you got for me, Unreal? When you work in the Unreal Engine code base, we encourage you to strive to use respectful, inclusive, and professional language. Word choice applies when you name classes, functions, data structures, types, variables, files, folders, plugins, and you know what? That's fair. I get it. You do want some professionalism. You don't want to sit here and name one of your name classes, function underscore dog shit underscore kill the president. Like, I get, you don't want to do stuff like that. This is going to be, like I said, this might be viewable to the world. If you stop working on your game and someone else comes in and takes over and they need to learn the code, like, yeah. But that's not the sort of words they're talking about. It applies when you write snippets of user-facing text for the UI, error messages, and notifications. It applies when writing about code, such as comments and changeless descriptions. The following sections provide guidance and suggestions to help you choose words and names that are respectful and appropriate for all situations and audiences, and be more effective. Well, hold on. You will never, and I repeat, never find something that is appropriate for all situations and all audiences. There's 8 billion people in the world. You are going with the try to please everybody route, which is impossible. You will never please everybody. What one person finds offensive, the other person will find totally fine. There's literally no, the phrase is, well, you can't please everyone, because that is factually accurate. But what's it? Racial, ethnic, and religious inclusiveness. Do not use metaphors or similes that reinforce stereotypes. Examples include contrast black and white, or blacklist and whitelist. You can't use the terms black and white because Unreal Engine is so hyper-fixated on modern Western American social, ideological, political bullshit that just the phrases blacklist and whitelist, which are completely normal words that have zero connotation to race, are now off the table. You realize that some Japanese dude or some French dude or someone from Uganda that might be making video games is gonna take a look at this, and blacklist and whitelist is now off the table. It's not gonna mean anything to them. That is completely irrational. Contrast black and white. But by your logic, any game that is made in Unreal Engine can't use the yin and the yang. Can't use the yin and yang. Nope. That's a contrast to black and white. That is a racial symbol now. If you decide to make an indie game and you want to sell it and you use the Unreal Engine, nah, take that down. If you use the yin yang, you are a racist piece of shit because it used, contrast to black and white. And I know I'm going a bit extreme. That has nothing to do with the code, but that's literally what it sounds like we're getting towards. Do not use words that refer to historical trauma or lived experience of discrimination. Examples include slave, master, and nuke. When writing your code, you cannot use words like slave, master, and nuke. What the shit are you talking about? These are just words. Slave has nothing to do with race inherently. Not at all. There has been slavery throughout the world, but even when we're talking about slavery throughout the world and not talking about how it has connotations to race, it's just a word that means something. Same with Master. The Legend of Zelda Master Sword. So what, if Nintendo was to use Unreal Engine and they wanted to code in different effects for the Master Sword that maybe no other sword had, they couldn't use the word master because of your, it's got some racial connotations to it. Well, no, you talked earlier that the lines of code that need to be easily identifiable for people who will be taking up the project afterwards. I would say using, the term master to talk about the master sword makes that easily identifiable. They're not going to confuse it with any other item that they might be trying to find in the code. Nuke. What if they're making a Duke Nukem game? Wouldn't it make sense to fucking use the word nuke? They are going so out of their way to eliminate language based on just the idea of, a few people here or there might get offended. Fuck them. That's not what games are made for. It's lines of code. 90% of people aren't even going to see this or understand it. What about gender inclusiveness? Refer to the hypothetical people as they, them, and their, even in the singular. Refer to anything that is not a person as it and is. For example, a module, plugin, function, client, server, or any other software or hardware component. Do not assign a gender to anything that doesn't have one. Do not use collective nouns like guys that assume gender. You can't even say the general functions, hey, what's up, guys? Like, Unreal Engine. What are you trying to do? You're going to nuke yourself, and I know that's a word you probably aren't supposed to use, but you're gonna nuke yourself, because when people invariably don't read this bullshit, or even better, don't listen to this bullshit, because it is very much that bullshit, and their games start getting taken down, and they stop paying for your program, what are you gonna do? No one wants to pay for this sort of crap. I hope more people know about this. I haven't really seen anyone talking about it except for Levistro, and now my boy Alexi, who has been a game developer for 25 years. We'll get to his thoughts in a moment. But this is bananas. Avoid colloquial phrases that contain arbitrary genders like a poor man's ex. You can't even use general phrases. What about slang? Remember, your words are being read by a global audience that may not share the same idioms and attitudes, and who might not understand the same cultural references. You're right, which is why you can't please everyone, so just let these developers do the damn thing and don't worry about it. Again, what if the Japanese, come out there, they make a game, they're using their slang, someone in fucking, I don't know, Canada finds it offensive, because it's always Canada. Canada's the one that finds everything offensive. Better than that, we know that those up top don't like Asians all that much because Asians are super successful. We all know how it's okay to be racist against Asians and Jews. So let's try something different. What if somebody making a game in Zimbabwe uses some slang, and then some French Canadian finds it offensive? Are you gonna punish the black dude in Zimbabwe making the game? You literally are painting with so broad a brush, this will hurt everyone and help no one. Are you so retarded you cannot understand that? Avoid slang colloquialisms, overloaded words, word lists. The following list identifies terminology that we have used in Unreal code base in the past, but we believe should be replaced with better alternatives. Blacklist, whitelist, slave, master. Guys, this is insane. And frankly, as it goes on, it gets away from any of the social woke, whatever stuff, and it just goes back to regular, normal standards and practices and guidelines. But that doesn't matter. They snuck this woke mind virus bullshit right here in the middle. We got Alexei here saying this is so fucking annoying that some idiots and overall good companies are coming up with stuff for the sake of virtue signaling, and that's impossible to enforce, or you will have to get yourself into a number of ridiculous situations. Just dumb. It is absolutely dumb. This is quite literally one of the worst things I've seen. Honestly, since this Gamergate 2 fiasco started, this has been one of the most insane things that I've seen so far, and this doesn't even really relate to Gamergate or anything. It doesn't relate to, Sweet Baby Inc., it doesn't relate to Kotaku, but this is now easily on everyone's radar because everyone's so hyper-focused and worried, understandably so, for Unreal Engine to come out and make these level of changes clearly for no good reason. You cannot find an objectively good reason when you read these as is. This is done for purely propaganda and ideological purposes. Ideology that the company themselves probably doesn't even agree with. They're just doing this to look good on paper. Maybe this is how they're going to get some ESG money from whoever their investors are. Did BlackRock or Vanguard or Raytheon recently invest in Epic Games? I'd be willing to bet they did after reading these, though that's just my assumption. Either way, it is maddening. It is unreal. At least they've got their name accurate. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Not always about the video game industry, although that's been a lot of what it is lately. But anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon. And become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord. Choose the articles I go over on a day-to-day basis, like Levistro chose this one right here today, actually. Choose the videos I react to on my Friday night live streams. And of course, get involved in the discourse with over 70 other vital idols. It is a beautiful, growing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to build up more. Everyone that comes has a fantastic time because we don't care about diversity. That's not true. We do. We care about one kind of diversity. Diversity of thought. So join the Discord, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.